what you're about. Tell me in a sentence who you are.
Nobody. I'm nobody. I'm a tramp, a bum, a hobo. I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
Welcome back to Grab Your Brew with me, Leanne, and if you're new, welcome. Please like and subscribe. Today we are going to do a deep dive on Manson and the family and their government ties. Now, this will just be a glimpse into the whole everything I found, because I did find way too much for my own liking. So if you guys do end up wanting a series on Manson or the MK Ultra overall, please comment below for this mind-blowing twist. But go ahead, grab your brew, and deep dive with me. Now, a lot of people know about Helter Skelter, and if not, I don't mean the Beatles song Helter Skelter. However, for some twisted reason, Manson based a lot of his stuff on the Beatles songs, like he worshipped the Beatles songs and manipulated them for this deep, dark, I guess, obsession, and basically used it as a form of instructions to do horrific things. And the poor Beatles got the brunt end of the stick of this because, of course, when everything was going down, nobody wanted to be associated with the Beatles, even though they are, still today in pop culture one of the best legends around. But at the time, it was very hard for them to have this association with such horrific events. But I am digressing a little bit. I'm talking about the book Helter Skelter, which was written by, what's the word I'm looking for? One man that was there during the court case that basically manipulated the system in a large way. And a man you're going to see in a lot of these clips was somebody interviewing them from he wasn't invested at the time when he got involved, is the best way I can put it. He was more of he was a journalist, and his boss was like, hey, it's the anniversary of the Mansons, I want you to write this. And he was like, it's not really my thing. I'm not really into it. Because, of course, all he knew was the Helter Skelter and the media version of what it was projected. He didn't know too much about it, just what was in pop culture. But eventually he was like, oh, it's going to be an easy job, whatever. A job's a job. And the more he did a deep dive, the more digging he did. He even interviewed people that were alive during that case, prosecutors, judges, everything. And anybody that was involved, he tried to, get an interview with. Even the man who wrote the book, Helter Skelter, which was pretty much pop culture's guide to what actually happened with the Manson family. But this man ended up writing chaos. Now, I've read Helter Skelter, and the way I read books, it feels like jigsaw puzzle pieces coming together to me. I am dyslexic, so I do have to read books with a very fine tooth comb. I usually read it multiple times just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because I am severely dyslexic. But however, this man came across my, I guess, FY For You page on YouTube as I was listening to different podcasts, and then it went over to Candace Owens, and Candace Owens talked about the book Chaos and said how after she read that, it changed her whole view on it, and she highly recommended it. And then as it continued down my playlist, because, we all just kind of let stuff play in the background, but I guess because it went from my research on the Manson family, it went to, I apologize. It went from my research on MK Ultra, and it automatically went over to the Manson family due to their ties. And then that went over to Candace Owens, and then it automatically played over to the Joe Rogan podcast. where he was actually interviewing the man who wrote Chaos. And then I just started my deep dive, my ADHD OCD brain, and I found a lot of correlations that matched up with his book, even if you pull apart interviews. Because every interview you see of Manson, from an outside point of view, it just seems like a whole bunch of off the wall crazy gibberish.
I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore. Do you feel blame? Are you mad? Do you feel like Woosh Kebab's right frantic? Get frantic,
But he does speak in a lot of riddles, or he'll tell you gibberish in one defining sentence that lines up with other stuff that makes sense. It's like he gives you one piece of jigsaw puzzle piece, and it's pretty much like figure it out yourself. But this man's brain got severely damaged, and the reason why it was only right to have Manson following the MK Ultra program is because, you guessed it, he had government ties that will blow your mind with MK Ultra.
Ultra program had been trying to create and do for, at that point, about 15, 17 years. When it was all exposed in the 70s, and there were these hearings, first the Rockefeller Commission hearings and the church hearings, and then finally Senators Ted Kennedy and Daniel Inouye held hearings. The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did. All the records had been destroyed when the two people who ran it, Richard Helms, who had become the director of the CIA in the 60s, and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of the mad scientist who had supervised they had safe houses in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where they would experiment on people that were lured into these apartments and houses that were either look like brothels or hippie communes or whatever. And the people who were working at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic that was run by another Smith, which makes it a little confusing, but Dr. David Smith, who founded it, he had given an office to a scientist named Jolly West, Louis J. West, who was, when the hearings occurred in the 70s, identified as a top MK Ultra researcher. He was an academic, come out of the military, had been at the University of Oklahoma, and then UCLA, running the psychiatric divisions. He denied ever being involved in MK Ultra. And this was one of the moments, I think it was 2001, when, things really kind of shook the course of my reporting. Was I learned that West had been at the same place that Manson was in the Haight in the summer that Manson became exactly what the CIA was trying to create. And I knew, actually, I'd interviewed West about 7 years before for a story I did about celebrity stalkers, the people who were obsessed with stars and then only to kill them or try to kill them. And he was an expert in violence, hypnotism, brainwashing, and he was the chair of the psychiatry department at UCLA at that point.
So as you see, this West guy popped up before Manson was known to be the murderer. As Manson says, I didn't kill anybody, but, part of what he did, because originally, if you listen to some of the followers that weren't involved with the killings, they all said like they didn't understand it because it was completely against everything that Manson was originally representing. He wanted peace, love, grow crops, live off the land, all that good stuff, which is, unfortunately, it's a very great way of living. I personally want to live that way too, but because of instances like this, I feel like the CIA targeted these communities that were being self-sufficient, because let's face it, as long as we're self-sufficient, the government's not benefiting off us being self-sufficient. They're not benefiting whatsoever because they're not taxing us on groceries. They're not poisoning our food because we're growing our own food. And that's not a win for the government. But because these communities are kind of isolated and away from everybody, trying to be self-sufficient and be by themselves and just be in a community together, the government targeted them because they are isolated. They could experiment on them, they could trick them, they could manipulate them because, let's face it, if we're away from culture and away from media and all of that stuff, and somebody comes in and we're like, hey, we work for the government, for one, a lot of the time, no more. I know, no more, not me anyway. But a lot of times people tend to trust them. So if they're like, hey, we have this great thing for you, could help you out, or hey, we're going to supply you, kind of like a manipulation tool, like I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, or come do this and we got this for you. But I don't want to give too much away in the beginning, but prior to the whole Manson being Manson, I want to play you two clips, right? Just to show you where, I guess what I'm referencing about how Manson will tell you specific sentences mixed in with a lot of his gibberish that do correlate with some stuff. And I'm going to give you one example. Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
That worked there, because I interviewed barely any record, and that's another reason it took me 20 years, because I was trying to find out whether or not Wes had actually interacted with Manson and or the girls. I mean, I knew he was in the same facility. I knew that everybody that worked there, because I interviewed everybody that was alive. Most of them were still alive back in the late 90s and early 2000s when I did this. They all said, oh yeah, Charlie was, we knew it was Charlie and the girls. They come in every day or every few days to see Roger. And West was there recruiting subjects. Now, West, while he was there that summer, had opened something called, what he called the Haight-Ashbury Project. And in his correspondence and papers that I found, he called it a laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. And, and just like the Operation Midnight, safe house, they call them safe houses, which were disguised as bordellos and that type of thing, or brothels. This was an apartment that was decked out, or as he called it, tricked out to look like a communal hippie place. He had 6 graduate students, and I have his letters to them before they came to work in this. He goes, grow your hair long, wear jeans, dress like hippies, and lure people in there. So they ran that for the summer of '67.
What about him?
Well, what about him?
He got killed.
Well, the word is you killed him.
Word is that you're an old woman. Word is you have turkey in the sky. Word is, I don't know what word is. Somebody else tell you that. I didn't tell you that.
Did you kill Shay?
Hell no.
Did you cut Hinman's ear off?
Hell yes.
Why, how'd that feel when you cut his ear off?
What did it feel like?
Yeah.
Well, I had done what he said for about 20 years. I'd done everything he told me to do. And I got to thinking, now, why don't this guy do something I tell him to do? And he said, no. I said, well, how comes I'm always doing what you tell me to do, but then you never do what I say do? And he said, well, blah, blah, blah. So I said, now you do what I say. And he said, no. I said, you do exactly what I say. And he said, no. I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. You do exactly what I say. And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus-pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
You know nothing about something called helter-skelter. Tell me, Charles, I don't know.
It's a fairy. It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy tragedy.
The body of Sharon Tate is make-believe.
That's make-believe.
Make-believe. Yeah.
That's make-believe to the people that went in there and did what they did.
Mm-hmm. And who were those people? You know who they were.
Sure, I know who they were.
They were with you at the Spawn Ranch. They were part of this thing called, if not the Manson family or the Manson cult, the Manson Ranch. Call it what you will.
So then, what? You dealt the hand down there in L.A. You and that press. You dealt the hand. You put me on Life magazine, had me convicted before I walked in the courtroom.
Now, I did cut through a lot of the jibber jabber, and I don't necessarily want to say it was jibber jabber. A lot of people have written it off as jibber jabber, but what's the best way I can explain it? Now, You see in that last clip where he's talking about how before he got busted, he never had long hair, he never had a beard. It wasn't until the hippie representation that he got into getting busted for this in particular, because Manson was in and out of juvenile halls, reformant schools, and all of that growing up, because he came from a poor family. He had a little bit of a rough upbringing, so he was basically just passed around. He was a child that got lost in the system. His parents were in prison. He ended up following suit because the system is not put in place to help people succeed. They are put in place to earn money off of the people lost in the system. And we all know that coming to the now 2025, we all know that the government's not particularly ever been in our favor. Going through the, like I said, the jibber jabber. Imagine being one of the subjects of the MK Ultra program. And they tell you in the video that he was there almost every day, him and the girls, right? Just him and the girls. They tell you about all the other people that were completely confused. They were all doing the same thing, living on the same compound, living off the land, all of that good stuff together. But the ones that were part of the MK Ultra program, Manson and those girls, were the ones that were involved in this heinous crime. And Manson does go ahead and insert the fact that he thinks the media is the one that did this, and the people who did it, he got the blame for. Which 2, 3, 4 years ago, you asked me, I'd have been like, oh, he's a psychopath, he's crazy, don't even think about it. But after all the stuff that's coming to light in modern day, I wouldn't question that. I would not question that. That's the sad thing. Do I think this man is deeply disturbed? Yes. Do I think he was deeply disturbed before the MK Ultra program? No. Because during the interview with West, like they even state, they were able to do with Manson what they had been trying to do for 15 years. Which is create somebody that can commit a crime and have no recollection of it. So it could possibly be that in Manson's mind, he is innocent. He has no recollection of it. He just has recollection of living on the compound with the girls. And I have so many different things. Now, also in that clip, not to negate too long, but I do want to bring up something, touch on something during this video that kind of made sense, because I was listening to one interview and they were like, they both have the same name. Now, Tex was known as the muscle, I guess, per se, but Tex is actually one of the physical murderers. Because if we're going by the narrative that was given through Helter Skelter and the media and everything, if we're going by that timeline, the girls say Tex is also Charlie. They said Charlie told me to do it, but they don't say which Charlie. Tex is also named Charlie. Tex was known as the muscle, the one that was actually physically there for the killings. Physically there for the killings. And let me give you a reason why I think some things may have got twisted, and I may be completely wrong, but I want to see who's on my train of thought. So let's go ahead and take a look at Tex.
Single-handedly snuffed out the lives of 7 people in what was the most heinous crime of the 20th century. And now, for the first time on national television, Tex Watson shares what happened the nights of the Tate LaBianca murders. The murders committed in August of 1969 by Charles Manson and his sick band of followers. What you may not realize about the murders is that the victims actually died at the hands of one man, not Charles Manson, but the man since called the executioner, 20-year-old Charles Tex Watson. And now, 21 years after the crimes, Charles Watson shares what really happened.
August 1969. America reeled from 2 nights of murder, 2 nights of helter-skelter. A young 21-year-old man, along with female accomplices, committed all 7 of the Tate LaBianca murders. Charles Watson.
The people at the time of the crimes were just blobs. They weren't individuals. They meant nothing to me. I didn't know the people. I was so high on speed that I understood what I was doing, but it just didn't make any difference anymore.
How does a boy from a good family in Texas end up killing 7 innocent people in Hollywood? Charles made 2 fatal mistakes. He got in with Charles Manson and his family and began taking large amounts of speed and hallucinogens. Did you believe Manson was Jesus Christ?
Yes, we did. We didn't know if he was Jesus Christ or the devil. We were very confused. We were very mixed up. We were living just for today. For tomorrow we died. We didn't know if there was even going to be a tomorrow.
Watson and the other family members saw no future for themselves because Manson told them not to. In fact, he invented an entire theology that combined elements from the Beatles' White Album and the Book of Revelation. He told his followers that the world was about to erupt in chaotic race wars, which he thought was prophesied in the Beatles song Helter Skelter. The Hollywood murders were supposed to trigger the end, and then Manson and his followers would escape on dune buggies to a bottomless pit in the desert, a pit which incidentally in the Book of Revelation stands for hell.
It did.
So now you know who Tex is. I want you to listen to this small clip about how somebody in prison that met Tex and Manson, and let's hear their opinion on this, right?
They went, Charly Manson. He goes, yeah, he's here. He works as a gardener in the Catholic chapel garden. So he took me over to see him, and I saw him from the door. I didn't actually go in and meet him at that moment. And quite honestly, I was disappointed. And here's this little tiny man, beard, hair, and I kept thinking the way everybody talked about Charlie, he would be a larger man, and he wasn't. But my first actual interaction with him, he was at the canteen line, and he would have rocks that he had painted. He goes, you want to buy one of my rocks? No, I want to buy one of your rocks. Well, you don't want to buy one of my rocks. And he goes, don't you know who I am? I'm Charles Manson. I'm more famous than Jesus Christ. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just ignored him, right? And again, it's one of those things where he was used to being somebody that people don't ignore. Well, I'm working in the clinic, and one of the things they would do is always trying to get needles, and any drugs they could steal from the clinic. Well, a lot of times they would go and they would pressure the young guys who were working there to steal the stuff. One day he came in and he goes, look, here's a list of stuff I need. And I go, sorry about your luck. He goes, no, you don't understand. I want this stuff. I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, you got to learn how to play this. No, I don't. And so he gets real frustrated. And all of a sudden he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs, and he's jumping up on chairs and jumping off chairs, and all this. His staff's running towards him. And I see some of his other friends come running in. They hit one of the med cabinets real quick and grab a bunch of stuff and run back out. Quite honestly, having known Tex Watson and having met Charly Manson, I've always believed that Tex Watson was he was the force behind the family. Charlie was the head, the figurehead. He made the great little cartoon character figurehead. But Tex Watson was a very calculating man, because when I met him at California Men's Colony, he was the inmate pastor in the Protestant church. He had married a minister's daughter. He had developed this yoke fellow following of people. And the thing was, you got to remember, he was the one that told the girls, Charlie says we've got to do this. Well, I'm sorry. You've got Charly Manson, you got Charles Tex Watson. Charlie. Didn't say which Charlie told him. He was another guy that was highly intelligent. And most of the guys I knew that were serial killers were just top-notch intelligence, just not necessarily the guy you want to invite home for dinner.
I would be here all day. I would be here all day if I wanted to. It was, again, if you want the full scope of everything that I found, it is going to take a series of me doing this. So do comment below if you would like me to do that. I'm just trying to give you snippets of the horrendous things I uncovered. Now, I'm not by any means trying to say that Manson is innocent. Do I feel like he played a part in this? Absolutely. Do I think he was conscious of what he was actually doing? No. Do I think it is normal mental issues that he had? Definitely not. I believe, like the man said earlier on in his interview with Rogan, he became what the CIA had been attempting to do this entire time. And they were successful. Because it's mighty funny how they were specifically circling these communes with hippies right before the hippie era ended. Now, everybody being about peace and love, you lose money. There's no money in peace and love. But you know why there is money? War. War is where there's money. Because let's think about if we want to go to a tax standpoint. Taxes earned income used to be in the income tax, the tax that comes out of your paycheck, was supposed to be a temporary thing. There was a war, they had the tax for everybody to help with the war, to pay off the debt from the war, and it was supposed to go away. But it didn't, did it? We are here years and years and years and years and years later, and they're taking our money out of our paycheck, our hard-earned money. They're taxing us on that. They're taxing us on our income. They're taxing us on our food. They're taxing us on our cars. They're taxing us on property we own. Tax, 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 tax. There's no war. There's no money. It's already been proven multiple times that a lot of the drugs came through the government. The government tested, if it was not for the government, LSD would never have existed. Would never have existed. So when people want to sit here, it's the same as heroin. If it wasn't for the government, heroin would never have existed. So these horrendous drugs that come on the streets are like, oh, war against drugs, we're going to stop the drugs so people stop dying from them. Then stop making them. Stop. First and foremost, stop testing on the military. These people that give up their lives to fight for you. Most of you have never even been in another country and fought for your country. But you want to test on them? Destroy their lives? Destroy who they were? Like they haven't got enough issues going on. And then you turn around and start testing on other people. And then you create people like this. Like Manson. And then you want to sit there and preach about how he's such a horrible person. You made him that way. He worked for the government prior to him becoming known for the Manson killings or the Manson family. He was a guinea pig. He was a very successful test subject that did ultimately what they wanted, which was to end the hippie era, which would end compound living, which, thank God, in 2024, 2025, people started trending more for growing their own crops and taking care of their own food and stuff, because the government don't like that. The government does not like that. I did have a clip that I wanted to play for you guys as well, in addition, where Manson is saying that he didn't pay the piper, that basically there was a requirement and he didn't pay the piper, and we all know what happens. Now, if you're unsure about the Pied Piper theory, now the Pied Piper was, there was rats and everything during the plague time, and they got the piper come to remove the rats, and they didn't pay the piper, so Pied Piper came and played the song and took away the children. And Manson was reflecting in this that the reason I can't play it is because the clip unfortunately has been removed. But Manson was saying that they didn't pay the Pied Piper, and then that resulted in people being killed. He claims it wasn't by him, but that was the logic of it. The logic, that the word I want to use. I don't know. I am sleep deprived, and it's so hard to try and make a short podcast on Manson because there's so many more moving wheels that go into it that I say, like, that is why I did want to do a whole series out, but I'm not going to waste my time on it if it's not really something you're interested in, because I do have a following that's like 50-50. Some people like the really long ones, some people like the series, and some people just want a smaller one. But I think the people on the smaller one, the people like me that have ADHD, I want you to get straight to the subject. But it is what it is. But yeah, I will take a poll to see. If you follow me on Spotify, I do have a poll up there asking if you would like a more in-depth series on MK Ultra and Manson, because honestly I feel like Unabomber, MK Ultra, Manson, they all go into one, right? So if you haven't seen my last video on MK Ultra, please watch that video so you can catch half of these references. But I think basically you can't do all of those people without MK Ultra, especially now. And I do highly recommend you buy the book Chaos. I do, because it is an eye-opener. It really is an eye-opener to the horrendous things that go on in this world that we all kind of blanked our eyes, right? And I mean, this also goes down to them banning TikTok. The more we talk to each other, the more we communicate stuff, the more we post the truth, we're less easy to control. And I know I probably went on a lot of tangents on this video and got a little hype, but these videos do make me passionate, and I do work really hard on them. And my mind is blown. My mind, guys, is absolutely blown with everything that I've been finding. I've been finding a lot of things that I didn't even try to find. I just stumbled across them. Like, I knew my video probably led to more questions, because trust me, my deep dive led me to more and more questions. Again, I do have a poll going. Spotify, it's on there. I will add one to YouTube, and if you're listening on other podcasts, go ahead and pop over to Grab Your Brew on YouTube and take part of the toll. Oh, tongue-tied. Take part of the toll so I can decipher if I'm going to go ahead and do this whole series for you, because I will do it. I have enough research to do it. It's just I don't want to put in the effort if you guys just want me to keep doing my rants on different things. But thank you so much for grabbing a brew with me. If you did follow it this far, please go ahead and put your favorite emoji in the comment section. Comment, like, subscribe, all of the fun stuff, so I can start making money off of YouTube, start getting monetized, or all of the social medias. I need to start getting monetized. I need to get paid for my work. I'm stressed. No, I'm not stressed. I really do enjoy these videos, and the people that have messaging me, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for following me. And go ahead and join me next Monday here at Grab Your Brew. Again, please like and subscribe. I hope you have an amazing week. Bye.